Okay guys, so today we're going to be doing a low light test comparing the Lumix S1 Mark II to the Sony FX3. This is a really highly requested video. As we all know, the Sony FX3 is like the king when it comes to low light. It's the monster. So how does the S1 Mark II compare to the Sony FX3? So what I want to do is cycle through the different ISO values and compare them to the Sony FX3. Now, keep in mind the Sony FX3, to get the best quality, you will have to shoot in Cine EI, which basically has two native ISOs of 800 and 12,800 ISO. We will also test out flexible ISO a little bit later, but what I want to do right now is just kind of show you what the Lumix S1 Mark II can do. We are filming this in ProRes 5.8K 422 HQ, so basically the highest setting that we can here on the Lumix S1 Mark II. Autofocus is turned on, and just to show you, this is a low light situation. We've got just a little small bounce here hitting these shutters, and it's like at 20%, I don't remember the percentage, it's very low light. We're shooting this on the iPhone. Shout out to my wife for helping us out. We also have a nan light set to 1%, just as a little hair light. So we do want to shape Evan here, who's normally behind the camera. We want to shape a little bit of light here, but also show, you know, how low light the situation is. Also have a monitor over there at 1%. And one last thing, two aperture lights right here at 1%. So everything is like at the lowest light possible. But again, we still want to shape and see Evan. So autofocus does work. I mean, this is like severely underexposed. We're at 640 ISO. Now I'm gonna go cycle through the different values. We are at 800 ISO. Now at 800, this is gonna be the native for Sony, and it looks good. I mean, it's a low light. You can see 1,000, 1,250, 1,600, 2,000 ISO, 2,500 ISO, 3,200 ISO, and I'm starting to see some noise here on the left side where it's really black. 4,000 ISO, this is very noisy. Now keep in mind that this changes at 5,000 ISO. It's gonna start to clean up. So right now it's at 4,000, and you'll notice as soon as I hit 5,000, boom, everything just gets clean. It looks much nicer. And this is one thing I do like, because looking at Evan here on the monitor, honestly, like, this doesn't look bad. And the thing about the Sony FX3 is you have two extremes. You have 800 ISO and then you have 12,800 ISO. You don't really have anything in between. Where this, I feel like 5,000 in most situations, very low light, is going to be actually usable. But how does the Lumix S1II compare to the 12,800 ISO on the Sony FX3? So let's go ahead and ramp things up. Now we have 6,400 ISO, 8,000 ISO, your little hair light and your curly hair, Evan, 10,000 ISO. And this is where it's gonna start getting interesting, because we are at 12,800 ISO, which is the native ISO for the Sony FX3. And I've shot Sony FX3 so many times, and I can tell you right now, when you shoot with the Sony FX3, when you're shooting at 12,800 ISO, you're gonna need to overexpose. For whatever reason, like when you're shooting at 12,800 ISO, you starve the sensor from light, you're gonna get a lot of noise. So you're definitely gonna wanna overexpose. So even in this situation, we're still underexposed by like a stop and a half, maybe even more. Yeah, stop and a half. So now let's go to 16,000 ISO, 20,000 ISO, 25,600 ISO. I don't even know if this is even gonna be usable. 32,000, and then 40,000, and then lastly, we have 51,200 ISO. So now I'm gonna go ahead and put the FX3 here and then cycle. We're gonna do Cine EI first, then we're gonna do flexible, but then the Lumix has a trick up its sleeve, and that's the fact that you can shoot, you're able to shoot in this dynamic range boost mode, which is going to clean up the shadows. So I'm tempted to see what that looks like, but let's put the FX3 here first to see what that looks like. So we've got the Sony FX3 here, and we're gonna just basically do two of them, and then we'll go to flexible ISO. Both of them work on autofocus really well. This is at 800 ISO, f4, 5200 Kelvin. We're filming at the highest setting here, which is DCI 4K. That's the highest we can go here. Unlike the Lumix, we can go 6K. So this is what it looks like, 800 ISO. Now I'm gonna go ahead and switch it to 12,800 ISO, and it looks clean. I am looking at this on a very small monitor. It does look clean. As I mentioned before, the Sony sensor at 12,800 ISO, you definitely want to overexpose, because you do starve that sensor and it's going to get very noisy. One thing about the Sony FX3 though is that it does apply a lot of denoising in camera, whereas the Lumix, you do have that choice. You can like alter settings and stuff. I left it factory settings. so I didn't mess with it. I just left it alone. But anyway, so we're gonna see what that looks like. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just do a quick cut, change it to flexible ISO, just so you guys can see how I ramp up through the ISO values and how it compares to the Lumix S1 Mark II. So I went ahead and switched over the Sony FX3 to flexible ISO. And this is where you're gonna start to see, as I ramp up through the ISO values, which I'll do kind of quickly here, it's gonna start to look a little bit blotchy just because of that internal denoise. It doesn't know how to process that information very well. So sometimes, depending on the situation, it may not look at it like this, but in my experience, it tends to look like Minecraft. But anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and just cycle this really quickly here. 800, 1000, 1250, 1600, 2000, 2500, 3200, 4000, 5000. I'm gonna leave it here just for a second because 5000 is the native ISO on the Lumix, and I kind of want to see side by side what 5000 looks like here versus 5000 on the Lumix. Obviously the Lumix should look much better. And then we're gonna go to 6400 ISO, 8000, 10,000, 12,800, and immediately I could tell, even on the small monitor at 12,800 ISO, the image just cleans up. I mean, that's the second native ISO, so obviously it's gonna look better. But let's keep going, just for the fun of it. 16,000, 20,000, 25,600, 32,000, 40,000, 51,200. Evan, you look white now. 64,000, 80,000. Evan, you're almost disappearing. And now we're at the highest, which I believe is, now we're at the highest. What is it? 128,000? Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's really high. This is the highest setting. Obviously, I'd recommend never to shoot this high, but this just gives you the range of flexible ISO and what it looks like on camera in comparison to the Lumix S1II. But now what I really want to see is some side-by-side comparisons and see if the Lumix S1II is now the king of low light. Okay, so I've set up the Lumix S1 Mark II in dynamic range boost, and now the native ISO is gonna change. It's actually gonna go to 1000 here. So you can see it here, 1000. I'm not gonna cycle through all the ISO menus. I'm just gonna cycle through the more important ones, which is gonna be the 1000 and then also the 5000 here on the S1 Mark II. So this is 5000, this is a second native ISO, so you can see what that looks like. And then what I'm also gonna do is go to 12,800 because that's really the test. We wanna see how it compares to Sony using this extended mode of being able to get that extra dynamic range. Now, because we are filming in 6K, this is 12,800 ISO, by the way. Because we are filming in 6K, remember, when we compress those pixels into that 4K timeline, it's also gonna clean it up. So I can't wait to look at this on the monitor, because right here it looks freaking sweet. I mean, it looks clean, but we're looking at this on a small monitor. I wanna see what it looks like on this monitor and also do a side-by-side comparison with all three. So I went ahead and imported all the footage, and now it's time to look at some side-by-side footage. Now, comparing the Lumix S1II to the Sony FX3 at their lowest base ISO, as you can see, we've got Lumix on the left, Sony on the right. I mean, there's really nothing to see. You can't see anything. They're both dark. I mean, this is low light. Now, going to 5000 ISO, immediately what I notice is just how good Lumix looks. I mean, it looks good because it's usable, where Sony, definitely not usable. And I mean, that's to be expected. It's unfair for me to say that the Sony looks trash because, I mean, it does, but because that's not the native ISO. It's unfair where this is native for Lumix, so that would be an unfair comparison, but we're still comparing them because people can still shoot at 5000 ISO. Now, I think this is what everybody wants to see. 12,800 ISO. Immediately, the first thing is I'm looking at these side by side, I'm thinking, did we do something wrong? Because the Sony FX3 looks out of focus. Now, obviously it was not out of focus. We actually shot in autofocus, and as you guys saw, it actually worked really well. The Lumix S1II just looks way sharper, and I don't care what anybody says, but resolution matters, and resolution can save you in a pinch. Because in a situation like this, if I need to add denoise, which I could on the S1II, and actually clean it up even more, I still have the detail. Where on the FX3, because Sony's doing all their processing and all that stuff, Evan's face starts to look really blotchy, where if we take the S1II and apply denoise, you can see it looks super clean. There's a lot of detail because again, that resolution in comparison to the FX3, even if we denoise the FX3, it's like adding lipstick to a pig. Now remember, this is the standard recording mode. Let's take a look at the higher dynamic range boost to see if it makes a difference. So again, looking at both side by side on the native low end ISOs, I mean, you can't really tell or see any difference. Now, 5000 ISO, holy smokes, this is where the high dynamic range boost does make a difference. And I gotta say, this is definitely usable on the Lumix S1II. I mean, it was usable before, but even more so now, where I can even push it. I can start raising up my exposure, and I know that I have a clean image. This goes back to what I was saying before on the Sony FX3 is like, really, you only get the 800 and the 12.8, but even the 12.8 is a little muddy unless you overexpose. So this is it. This is where you could see like, you've got more usable ISO range on Lumix. Now let's take a look at the 12,800 to see if the high dynamic range boost makes a difference. And I gotta say, it makes a pretty big difference, that high dynamic range boost. And a lot of people are gonna be upset, but I gotta say, I think the S1II looks better than the FX3. And again, the biggest reason is not so much because it looks just as clean or very close to the FX3. Again, FX3 is doing a lot of noise processing. It's more because of the resolution. I know that if I put this in DaVinci Resolve, add some denoising, it's gonna look way, way better than the Sony FX3. But even right now, without even putting any denoising on the image, just looking at them right now, I wouldn't be upset with the S1II at all. I mean, this looks fine to me. Again, they're both just slightly underexposed. So I would say the same thing for the S1II. If I just overexpose slightly over, crush the shadows, I'm in good shape, right? Where the FX3 just looks muddy. I mean, Evan looks out of focus, which he's not. Look at the shirts. Again, I'm gonna show you guys playback side by side so you guys can see here. And then if we go to all three, I wanna show you guys all three. I'm not gonna bother with the low because that's kind of a waste. 5000 ISO. So again, we've got on the left, far left, we have the regular S1II, high dynamic range in the middle, and then we have the Sony FX3 on the right. And you can see all three here. Yeah, FX3 doesn't look good. And then going to 12,800, you can see the high dynamic range in the middle. It just does look better. So I think if I was shooting interviews or things where I didn't have to whip pan my camera left and right, I'd definitely shoot in high dynamic range boost just to give me that extra latitude that I can get and also push the image a little bit more. So to kind of conclude things, is the Sony FX3 still the king of low light? I mean, I think that's debatable. It's really, I mean, you guys are seeing this. I'm not gonna say yes or no. I think that, in my opinion, I think I'd probably prefer the S5 I keep saying S5, S1II, just because of the resolution, and I have that flexibility to denoise. And honestly, even again, I'm gonna play it back again, it looks fine. I mean, this looks decent, it looks good. Just, it doesn't look any better or worse than the FX3. I mean, truth be told, they all look okay. It's not like, oh my gosh, the FX3, wow, it looks amazing. Like, it doesn't. Like, all these look, yeah, it could be a little bit better. But again, the resolution, I think that's where the S1II, in my opinion, takes the cake. Now, I did another test just for fun. I completely turned every light off. I just had some aperture lights in the back and I shot Luke Skywalker and just kind of, again, there's no light here at all. This is zero light at all. And I did the same test and this got even worse. You can see it looks even more muddier on the FX3, where the S1II, the sharpness is really going to help it out, especially when we add denoise. You're gonna have a lot of detail and information there compared to the Sony FX3, where it just looks very blotchy. Yeah, I think if you believe that the S1II is not good in low light, that couldn't be further from the truth. This camera is good in low light, and I think it's comparable to the FX3. And I'd say even more usable because you've got all those ISO ranges that I feel, in my opinion, are more usable than just Sony's really two. The 8 and the 12.8, and the 12.8 is still somewhat questionable. Anyway, that's it for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. My name is Armando. Thanks again for watching, and you will catch me in the next one. Adios.